Have you ever gotten to that place in your soul where you've quietened the noise around you, only to finally hear the cry of your heart? What felt like a nagging dissatisfaction gnawing at me for years had finally come to the surface at this point, and I thought to myself, is this what I really want in life? And if not, then what? But let's go back to the beginning. No, not that far back. Here, this is me, age 27, in the prime of my life, responsibility free, at a meaningful job, and right at the start of my quarter-life crisis. What I didn't know then was that it would take me 2 years to figure it out, with a 2-hour walk in the park, where I finally grasped the 2 beliefs that ended my quarter-life crisis. So there I was, a 27-year-old traveling around the world to bring clean drinking water to hundreds of thousands of people in rural villages and disaster zones. At the same time, I was also serving as a youth leader in the local church and running various volunteer programs. And I had an active social life too. I was living the life that I wanted, or so I thought. But this was 2019 and we all know what happened in the following year. Going overseas? Nope. Attend church? Nope. Run a party for migrant workers? No. Everything that had given me a sense of meaning was put on hold because of COVID, and I was left with an uncomfortable silence that I've never had to grapple with before. Without the distractions of routine activities or a vision to work towards, I started to wonder, who am I really if I'm not living out my dream? And then the other dissatisfaction started to creep in. I wasn't happy with my salary. I wasn't happy with my parents. I wasn't happy that I was single. But actually, those dissatisfactions were always there. They were just kept at bay because I felt fulfilled by my dream. In fact, it was the realization that I was upset about my singlehood that began the quarter-life crisis in 2019. The COVID lockdowns just accelerated it. You see, the quarter-life crisis is, at its core, an identity crisis. It typically starts out in early adulthood. After you followed a relatively set and structured path growing up, you follow that momentum into your first job. The excitement of earning your own keep, paying your own bills, growing at your workplace, perhaps working towards marriage keeps you going. But after a few years, when you've gotten a taste of adulting and you appreciate your autonomy, then you start to wonder if this is the path you actually chose, and moving forward, what kind of future do you want? It's an identity crisis because it's the first time in your life that you not only question the basis of your existence and your way of living, but you also have the power to change it. But it's probably also the first time in your life that the answers just don't come easy. Because no manner of parental advice, philosophical study, or YouTube videos are going to give you the answer. The answers can only be found within, through questioning, through exploring, through the process. So here I was, age 29, taking the walk that would change my life. I didn't know what to expect. I just felt like it was a good idea to go for a walk, to spend time alone with nature, to spend time alone with God. At first, my mind was kind of blank. No destination, no target, let's just walk and see how I feel. Then this happened. Some older folk walked past, and pretty quickly too. At first, I tried to keep up with them, like hey, I'm in my 20s, I should be able to keep up, right? But after a while, I decided to slow down, and then the questions began. What am I racing against? What am I trying to prove, and to whom? Is this not my own journey to take? What have I been living for? And honestly, even though I asked all these questions, I knew that some questions didn't need an answer. I had learned during those 2 years to be okay with that, to sit with the silence. And then a reply came. For purpose. I had been living for my purpose, or what I believed to be my purpose and dream at the time, you know, the clean water stuff. But why? A sense of significance maybe? Or joy? Probably not joy since I established earlier that I wasn't feeling particularly happy in this season. But if it doesn't result in joy, then what's the point? Is the pursuit of purpose then meaningless? And so the internal dialogue continues. I don't know who's talking. Is it one part of my mind with another? Is it between my heart and my brain? Is it between me and God? I don't know, but the process is what's important. What about comfort? Do I not naturally lean towards the pursuit of comfort? In binge watching TV shows or playing games, am I then living for comfort? But what's the point of comfort? The greatest things in life were never achieved through comfort, but struggle. I myself pushed through discomfort when I traveled to refugee camps for work, or when I started church and volunteer programs, or when I walked down to the park bench at night and talked to lonely strangers. And in doing so, I have felt alive, like a certain sense that I was born for this. You see, growth comes from discomfort and a lack of contentment, while comfort holds us back from who we can really become, and who we can become makes us feel alive. But even then, in the grand scheme of things, comfort, growth, contentment, the pursuit of them is pretty meaningless as well. As I walked and pondered, I felt no peace, no clarity, no real answers. Just ramblings in my head that all kept going to the same conclusion: meaningless, meaningless, a chasing after the wind. The very words echoed by King Solomon in the book of Ecclesiastes, and somehow, in the midst of this helplessness in my mind, I thought to myself, well, if the wisest man in the world couldn't find an appropriate answer to his questions, then what about me? Isn't it better to surrender the question than to despair for an answer? King Solomon actually concluded that book by basically saying, trust God and do as he says. And funnily enough, that's the answer that I arrived at as well. I thought about Jesus' sacrifice on the cross, the single indisputable act of love that God orchestrated since the beginning of time, and he did that without any of my input way before I believed in him. So if I was written into that part of his story, then isn't the rest of my life also written out with the same good intentions? With that belief, I can surrender my need for an answer. I don't have to worry about who I am, or who I will become, or what I should do in the future, because I can trust that a good God has written my story. The only appropriate response to that is to live in gratitude and honor because I get to live out his story. But what does that look like? So remember I said earlier that I felt alive at times from doing things outside my comfort zone? For as you explore, you get to find out more about yourself, what you like, what you dislike, and what makes you feel alive.
And that's the two core beliefs that ended my quarter-life crisis. 1, to trust God that He has written my story. And 2, to do things that make me feel alive.
After that walk at the park in 2021, my general hope and joy came back. I felt drawn back to worshipping and reading the Bible. I started getting new ideas and was more excited at work. And I did things that make me feel alive. I even did a bungee jump at the end of that year. Not sure if I ever do that again. The next year, when COVID restrictions eased up, I went for my first ever long solo trip to the US and even did skydiving there. So yeah, it's been an amazing journey. In fact, I just stepped out of my 8-year job in 2026 to start my own company and to start this YouTube channel. I can't wait to share the rest of my stories with you. In the meantime, I just want to talk to you. So hey, how are you? If anything in this video resonated with you, please drop me a comment and let me know how you felt about it. And if you're having a quarter-life crisis and you're wondering what you want to do in life, check out my website, purposefinderguide.com. I think you'll be interested in a program that I've developed to help you find your purpose in life. Alright, so that wraps up my first video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next video.